Hello my beautiful beardy friends. So this is how I trim up my beard all on my own. I've been to a barber probably twice and this is what I've learned from it. And here's how you can do the same at home. Okay then, so before starting, this is my blank canvas, so to speak. So it's been about 2 and a bit weeks since I last had a proper trim up. I always sort of like edge in the sides here and up underneath daily. So yeah, go check out my other video about my daily routine. But about once every 2 weeks, this is my sort of trimming routine. So the first thing is that I've cut up my hair in the shower this morning. So you can see I've got a hard line here and here, which will sort of blend in. And also it's just a little bit fuzzy. After about 2 weeks, I find that all the edges are a little bit fuzzy and underneath here, it gets a little bit heavier and you end up with like that like little bump here. So yeah, this is kind of the starting point. And importantly, there is no product in my hair right now. The product is put in at the end, but yeah, this is kind of like my blank canvas. This is the worst my beard can look because it's got no product. Importantly, I've learned that product can kind of tame a beard, but it cannot fix a beard. And so trimming is so important if you just want the right shape. And I've been doing this myself for over a year now, and these are all the tips that I've learned. So the first thing is just sort of double check what you actually want to do. So I've got a few hairs coming into my mustache. I want to kind of line up nicely, and obviously I want to get that fade into my hair that I've shaved. So that's what I'm going to try to achieve today. And importantly, sometimes I don't achieve the perfect beard, but after a couple of weeks, all of my little errors kind of have grown out. So I have absolutely screwed up my beard in the past, but it doesn't matter because, you know, if you make a mistake, you don't try to even it up because you just end up cutting more off and making it look worse. So if you do make a mistake, just accept it, move on for a couple of weeks. But hopefully I won't do that today, but who knows, maybe I will screw up this beard. Okay, the tools that I use are trimmers. So this is Val Professional. I use it to do my hair, but importantly, it's also just such a great sort of definer shaver. It can really kind of just line it up really nicely. A lot of cheaper shavers I found flatten the hair as they cut, and you really don't get kind of that defined edge. But investing in a good head shaver like this, I think is really great. So there's number one. This is what I use first. Number two is a really cheap Remington beard trimmer. Now this is so, like, my rule with beard trimming equipment and stuff is don't buy expensive stuff until you've broken the bad stuff. So start cheap, and if you break it, then upgrade. And look, that's what I did with this. I think these were 10 Australian dollars, super cheap. And I've never broken them, and I've never needed to upgrade. So I've needed to upgrade with my trimmers because I broke some head trimmers a while ago, and so I upgraded, whereas this seems to be doing fine. So this is the second thing I use, so a basic beard trimmer, nothing fancy. I've also got my straight tooth comb with a fat bit and a thin bit, so I use that just to tease out the hairs. Good quality scissors. So these are hair scissors. They probably are due for a sharpen, but this is what I used last just to get those final hairs. And then obviously a flat brush, but we don't worry about that until the end. The flat brush is for kind of making sure everything's in line. But ultimately, the first thing you want to do is brush your beard so it looks its worst. I tend to brush away from the skin, and I try just to kind of pull out any of those massively long hairs that I don't want, that I want to cut, and I want to make sure that I can actually see them. So comb your beard so it looks bad. That's the first tip. Oh, and another thing is I've got two mirrors. I've got this mirror. Oh, look, you can see yourself. I got this mirror, which I use to check the sides. So how do I do this? Over this side, I've also got the kind of main bathroom mirror. There we are. That's kind of cool. So I pivot this so I can see the sides of my beard as I'm trimming it, because importantly, the thing down here is where I want to make sure it's nice and lined up. And so having a mirror that's on the side that I can check in and make sure that it's looking good, that's important. So main mirror, camera today, and a side mirror just to check in on the sides. Okay, so first things first. I use this to make sure that I kind of just trim up any really obvious bits. Now, when you're trimming, start with little bits and work up. I've also used in the past, I've also used guides to guide the sides of my beard. So I can sometimes do a 5 straight down. But now as my beard's getting much longer, I found that a 5 is really too short to kind of support a big chin like I've got at the moment. So now I do it all by hand, apart from obviously the fade, which I'll show you in a minute. So the first thing is trim up any hairs that escape the lines of your beard, but don't go too close. Just get rid of the really obvious ones. Okay, and so what I'm doing is just going down, just really, really slowly, like I'm not cutting significantly into the beard. And because I've got a white background, what I do is, I turn my head so I can see the line and get the contrast from the background. And so as I'm turning my head, I'm just getting rid of any obvious hairs that move outside of that line. But once again, I'm not going close. If you feel nervous, I have seen people put on a guard so that you can only get so close. So it's kind of your insurance policy. I probably should be doing that because I'm no expert. I'm no professional barber, but I'm an expert in trimming my beard. Because I've had it trimmed up a couple of times, and to be honest with you, I wasn't really impressed with the results. They always kind of do something that I don't really like. So learning this, I think, is really important. Okay, so I've done the sides. Now, this is probably the one thing, the trick, is this under bit is where I really feel like a good defined line sort of separates an okay beard from a great beard. So the sides can be trimmed and tamed with wax if there's any sort of obvious issues. But under here, you can see over a couple of weeks, this area here kind of bunches up. And so I heard one barber when I went in say, take the weight out of the bottom of the beard. So that's the next thing I do, is take the weight out of the bottom of the beard. All right, let's do that. And so what I'm doing once again is I'm looking at lines. So I'm putting my head up and then I'm removing any hairs that are obviously outside of that line that I want to create here. And I'm always aiming towards my Adam's apple. And so I'm just pushing this back really slowly. Now, I don't want a huge angle here. So I only lift up my head a little bit. The more you want the angle, the higher up you can move your head. But I only want a short angle, and that's because as the chin gets longer, if there's no hair behind it to support the thickness, it looks like a wispy beard. And I've had that issue in the past, and I don't want that now. So I only lift up my head a little bit, and then I go kind of flat straight across with these. Let's do that. Okay, so there's the first pass. I'm going to comb out the bottom of the beard again, just to make sure I didn't flatten any hairs, and then kind of they'll pop out later. So just going to brush this out again. Once again, then using the contrast on my skin to have a look at any hairs that have escaped the kind of main bulk of the beard. So this is the second pass. And because I like a nice curve underneath, this is flat, and then as the edges kind of, as I go to the edge of my beard, I kind of tilt the trimmers a little bit. And so you can see now, if I look on the side from my other mirror, that's pretty good. It's pretty straight. And so there's no obvious kind of bumps. So if I was to do this, you can see hopefully that this area lines up nicely and my beard kind of has got a nice line to it, and that's what I like. I'm always really conscious of this bit in here because that's the bit that kind of bulges out first. So if in doubt, I always take a little bit more off as closer to my neckline. All right, so once again, brush it out, beard's dry. You can hopefully see that I've cut away most of the hairs that escape. And because we've got, I've got dark hair and the background's really white, you can really see that line. And so here's probably a little bit wispy still. You can see here, this line isn't quite right. So once again, I'll kind of go back there, and this is a process now. I just kind of brush, take a little bit off, brush, take a little bit off, brush, take a little bit off, and same down here. I'll keep an eye on that. Okay, back to brushing. So what we haven't done yet is the mustache, and so I'll show you my little trick of getting that mustache sorted at the moment. But you can see that the lines are okay. The chin's probably still a bit messy, but I am growing that chin out, so I don't want to trim it too much. I do want a little bit more length on my beard, and so I'm not going too heavy here. I accept that it's going to be a little bit more messy, but the sides, yeah, I can kind of take a little bit that off because I don't want my beard to go this way. I want it all to go down. Okay, once again, I'm checking out the lines. There's no obvious hairs escaping, which is great. And then once again, so if your beard looks good, like good but not great after you've trimmed it, that's fine, because the great comes by conditioning with beard oil and adding some wax just to kind of get that last bit of hold. I don't think anyone with a dry beard has an amazingly kind of manicured beard. There's always some product in it, as far as I can tell. Correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, so now that I'm happy with the sides, you know, that you can see that there's no massive escape. The chin I'm leaving. I could cut it in a little bit here, but like I said, I'm leaving it. I want it to grow out. And underneath here, there's a nice line now that I can check in my other mirror. And another thing I do is push my beard back. And as long as there's not a huge bump, so there's a little bit of a bump, but not a huge bump. There's not very often you do this, but that is one way that I check that I've kind of taken enough off, is push my head back into my neck and there's no massive bump. So we're all good. Now the mustache, the trickiest thing. I use this because the blade on this fat one is far too wide and it just makes it look really angular. Now my mustache, I like to have a little bit of girth to it. In the past, I've been to barbers and they've got a trimmer with a kind of guard on, and they've just kind of shaved it. And it just makes, for me personally, I don't like the way it looks. So if you like a shorter mustache, you can just use a guard and go up. I've seen that done, that's perfect. But for me, I like a little bit of bulk and I like it to kind of match my chin area. And so you'll notice, right, that all the hairs are now over my lip. Now in the past, I would do a pass like this, and it's really difficult to get that line because any obvious kind of length differences on your mustache are really obvious, and at least to me anyway. So what I do, and this may be a bit gross, is when I was doing videos and vlogs and looking at photos of myself, I realized that when I smiled, I had these hairs that went in over my teeth and it looked disgusting, like these kind of like weird tarantula legs floating off into my mouth. So what I do is I do one pass with my mouth shut and I trim to the lip line. So let's do that. Okay, so what I did was just pass up like this. We'll get the brush as well, or the comb. We'll use the fine tooth and we'll just brush that down. If you want a long mustache, a fancy mustache, then obviously take as much off as you want. But for me, I tried a long fancy mustache and it just got in my mouth and it was disgusting. So now, brush it down and then once again do a pass like this, following the lip line. Okay, so there's a couple of passes. Once again, it's not perfect at the moment, but the next thing I want to do is do this, smile, and you'll see hairs that I can, oh, I'm not quite in focus. You'll see hairs that go over, and so what I do is I smile and I do this, and it's disgusting because hairs end up in your mouth. But that seems to be the only way that I have been able to get a really nice defined lip. So let's do that. All right, so what you can see now is that there's a slightly larger gap between my lip and the mustache, but when I smile, there's no weird hairs over my teeth, so I'll just tidy that up, but that is what I like. Okay, so that's how I trim up my mustache to make sure. Now, I don't understand the mustache nook or notch. Let me know in the comments. I have no idea how to do that. I've kind of notched it in a couple of times before, but it looks like stupid. So I kind of just leave it like this. I think it's okay, but let me know the best way to do a mustache notch, because I've yet to find the perfect way. Okay, the final thing is once I'm happy, I will go backwards and forwards for this for ages. Looking at the lines, looking at this, touching it a lot, trying to find those long hairs that I can kind of pick out with my scissors, which we'll talk about in a minute. But now we've got to blend this into this. So 3 steps. Back to here, clip it on. And the first thing is I'm going to start from about here and go up with a number 3. So I tend to put the fade pretty low because I found that this bit here hasn't got enough hair to support a rapid fade. So quite a long fade, but from here to here, that's what I do. Now, each side of my head is different, and yours will be too. So this side I always like, this side I don't like, but hopefully you can see that yes, a 3 up is pretty good. It helps blend in my beard. Here obviously is a bit shorter, and here is where the full beard kind of comes into effect, but that's just the way my beard grows. Okay, so now I've done 3 from the earlobe up on both sides, and now I do I think it's a 1 from here up. I've done 1 up, now I need to go to 0, so I do a half. Just in the top, like from this ear nudge bit up. Let's do that. Okay, so that is the last little bit with the guard. And then with this on, but extended a little bit, I just kind of like tidy up that, see that little line? I tidy that up on both sides. All right, and that's probably about as good as I can get it. But you can see it goes from my hair and then fades into a 3 down here, and then obviously it's all hand, but I used to do about a 5 here in the past when it was a bit shorter. And so I'll balance that up on both sides. All right, so we're almost there. The last little bit is just to give a massive comb out. Once again, your hair will be a little bit drier than if you now than it was before. So this is where frizziness can kind of come back in. So I'll use my scissors to take off any obvious hairs that escape the lines that I've defined with the shaver. Okay, this is for the final little touches. I've tried in the past to do major trims with scissors, but it just doesn't work. So that's why having trimmers is so good. So I'm kind of going down the lines like this. I'm not cutting into the beard, I'm just taking off the very edges. All right, so I'm just taking off the last little thing. So once again, I'm kind of being much more manual with this. So pulling at the hairs, and if there's any obvious long ones, I'll just trim them off. But today there's not so much because I've been so diligent with the brushing and the double passing. So once I'm all happy with the beard, I got a few down here that I could get. All right, so that is it. Stop. You can spend ages perfecting your beard, but that's not the important point of this. So now I'll put in some beard oil, homemade. I'll do another video about homemade beard oil later. but just 2 or 3 drops. Work it into the hand. Work down. I put peppermint in this as essential oil, so that's nice and refreshing in the mornings. All right, so there's the beard oil. And this is where I use the flat brush. So the flat brush will just touching the top hairs. I'm not interested in getting down to the bottom with this flat brush, so nice and lightly, it just tucks any of those last little bits in. And so because I'm growing my beard, I don't go too mental. All right, just get those lines. And if you're not sure on what your lines are meant to look like, go to a barber. That's what I did. Take notes and just take notes of what they do, where they cut off your beard, what lines they spend a lot of time on. And that's how I decided what I liked. And then you can adjust your routine from there. Maybe a bit of beard balm. So a little bit of beard balm. Why not? Spoil myself. Here we go. So DIY as well. Thank you very much. What a hipster. Okay, and then flat brush again, just to push any loose hairs in. Go check out my other videos. I've got my daily routine. So I did that before trimming today, obviously without the products. And what else? And go check out Beard Growing Pro for some more awesome tips about beard growing. All right, I'll see you in the next video. Let me know how you trim up as well.